All right, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about just how destructive the elements can be and what, if anything, we can do about it. So let's get into it. First, I just want to say that my heart goes out to all of those families who have lost loved ones in the Midwest tornadoes. Such a tragic loss for everyone affected. My thoughts are with you. It's just so devastating. For anyone who hasn't lived through one of these storms, they're no joke. There's been twice that we've been in a storm strong enough to where I thought we may lose the house. And no, none of them are Frater created. I know I've had my weather magic mishaps, but these two instances were neither of those. The first was all the way back when I first met my girlfriend. We were house sitting for one of her friends and watching their dog while she was on vacation. We had spent the night and awoke in the morning to the dog freaking out. It was kind of barking and acting weird, which was the only short little warning that we got, because then we heard the freight train sound, followed by the house just absolutely getting rocked, pressurized wind whistling underneath the front door. And just before that, I looked out the window to see what the dog was freaking out about. And everything looked fine, but then this little tree they had out in the front yard just bent and went all the way to the ground, followed by a whiteout of just rain and wind rushing up and hitting the house. Thankfully, the windows held and I didn't have glass get blown into my face. When we finally emerged, it looked like a bomb went off and the entire neighborhood was just wrecked. But the house we were in got by relatively unscathed. But the rest of the neighborhood had broken windows, missing shingles, trees and branches down everywhere, trees on cars and houses. It was really crazy. And the thing is, by the time we actually got all the way down to the basement, because we just woke up, it was all but over. It turns out that that wasn't a tornado, but it was 100-mile-an-hour straight-line winds, which has a much wider area of damage, but the damage itself isn't as bad because it doesn't have the rotation that a tornado does. So, yeah, that storm really freaked me out because it came out of nowhere. Just early morning, the dog starts freaking out, and just within a couple minutes, it hit the house. There's really not much worse than being awakened by one of these things, or have it come in the middle of the night like these latest rounds of tornadoes did. Can you imagine if we were supposed to watch the house and our friend comes back and the house is either gone or severely damaged? But thankfully, there was only minimal damage compared to the rest of the neighborhood. After coming out and looking around, we had gotten off pretty easy. Now, the second storm was at the home that I'm currently in not long after we had first moved in. Now, that one was a tornado, and it went right over our heads. But thankfully for us, it hadn't touched down yet. The wind was blowing so hard I thought it was going to rip our covered patio right off. Covered patios are great any other time, but when tornadic winds come your way, they can be a liability. That tornado did touch down later after it went over us and hit the St. Louis airport.
All flights are being diverted this morning from Lambert St. Louis International Airport after an apparent tornado tore through the airport last night. Several people were injured. The same storm system battered other parts of the St. Louis area. And Maggie Crane of our St. Louis station KMOV joins us. Good morning, Maggie. Sorry to hear about the trouble there. What is the latest on your end?
Well, you know it's bad when the guys in that control tower up there spot the tornado and they've got planes on the tarmac. Right now, the big issue is just the cleanup effort. Let me show you because you're hearing a lot of noise around here. You've got street sweepers and also folks using just like a leaf blower to get this glass out of the way. Lambert International Airport is full of windows. There are windows from floor to ceiling on every end of the airport. And 50% of these windows blew out. Some blew in, causing some minor lacerations to passengers and people waiting in the airport. And they had to be transported, about 4 people transported by ambulance, 3 others treated here at the airport. Miraculously, nothing too serious. Let me tell you this, there were 3 planes full of people on the tarmac when the twister came through. And they tell me that, let's just put it this way, you don't expect to have turbulence on the ground, you expect that to happen in the air. Those airplanes will be checked out, of course, today to make sure that they are okay to fly, but no flights are coming in or out of Lambert for at least several days. None today, none tomorrow. The airport hopes to reevaluate on Monday, but the big problem is a lot of the stuff that you might be seeing seems superficial, but it'll take building engineers to get inside and make sure that the building is stable enough to have workers and passengers come back through.
So I'm no stranger to strong storms and tornadoes. During this latest outbreak of tornadoes, the sirens did go off. There was at least one tornado in our county. There were 2 killed here in Missouri, I believe, and at least 6, possibly more, across the river in Illinois at the Amazon facility. They took a direct hit. Now, when these things happen, it's always a reminder on just how destructive the elements can be. We use the elements all the time in our practice, but when these same elements get out of control, they can bring immense devastation. This is why we don't want any rogue elementals running loose, because they can cause all kinds of problems. Like the water elemental that I had in this place when I first moved in. We had all sorts of issues relating to water. It wasn't until I recognized it for what it was and got rid of it that the water-related problems stopped happening. But when the elements grow too large and remain unchecked, they can cause so much destruction and even loss of life. Protection and defense is one of the most important programs that you can own, but is also one of the most overlooked because many people don't turn to it until they're already in trouble. And if only they were to do some routine protection magic, they may have avoided the trouble altogether. Protection magic can be rather dull, however, because you're not manifesting anything. It's only really working when nothing is happening, or you're clearing up something that has happened. We're going to learn about the types of curses and attacks and how to tell if you're under them, how to remove curses and hexes, the correct way to cleanse your home of negativity, how to make your own holy water, how to remove cross conditions, reversal magic, how to send attacks back to the sender, the black salt pit, how to put those working against you into a hell pit of their own making, a psychic defense rite, and much, much more. Protecting yourself, your home, and those you love shouldn't just be a part of your practice, it should be your top priority. You can get protection and defense and other mind and magic programs over at mindandmagic.com today. For air, we have tornadoes and hurricanes. For water, we have flash flooding and tsunamis. When it comes to fire, entire forests can burn. We have the wildfires. And for earth, we have rock and mudslides, earthquakes, all of which are considered natural disasters. They're acts of God, which always strikes me funny when these things occur and people are like, well, I'll pray for you. I'll pray for you during this tragedy. Because I'm thinking, well, who do you think's responsible? They say it's an act of God, right? And I understand that they're just wanting to be comforting during such a difficult time, but it's also a part that a lot of people, especially religious Christians, don't want to acknowledge. They're so wrapped up in duality that they don't want to acknowledge that the Creator creates both the good and the bad. So they'll do things like blame Mother Nature. It's not God the Father now, it's Mother Nature who's responsible. But who do they think created nature? I'm now going to share with you a Bible verse that you'll never, ever hear a Christian tell you. You may know the most scripture-quoting, Bible-thumping, evangelical Christian that has ever walked the face of the earth, and they will never, ever tell you this verse. Because one, they either do not know it, there are a lot of Christians who are clueless about their own religion, or two, they know of it, but they won't recite it because it doesn't fit their doctrine and narrative. In fact, not only does it not fit, it blows it wide open. And it's very short. It can be memorized very easily. It's a great one to have when you're being accosted by religious fanatics. It's Isaiah 45, verse 7, which says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. So in this verse, you have God admitting that he creates darkness and evil. And that's the big difference between Christianity and Hermeticism, because Hermeticism acknowledges that the all creates all. We refer to the divine creator as the all because it creates all and is all, both the good and the bad. Where Christianity likes to promote this idea that God is only responsible for the good things, whereas the devil is responsible for all the bad things. Again, duality, without logically piecing together that the creator of all things must have created the devil and the demons too. Because while they do believe that God created everything, they can't quite make that connection, or they don't want to. And they'll quote the Old Testament, although they don't particularly like the Old Testament unless it suits them, because God has done some pretty horrific things in the Old Testament. They much prefer the New Testament, which is more about love, forgiveness, and understanding. And, of course, Jesus. The Old Testament and New Testament are like night and day. There's polarity. In the Old Testament, God is more wrathful, and in the New Testament, he's more loving and caring. The Old Testament is associated with Judaism, particularly the first 5 books of the Torah, and the New Testament is associated with Christianity. It's not that Christianity is wrong about duality. They're just wrong about its source. They're wrong about its nature. They want to attribute the bad to a bad guy, whereas Hermeticism, Kabbalah, show that polarity is from the same source. The 2 pillars go all the way up to the sephirots of Binah and Chokmah on the Tree of Life, which are split down from the sephirot of Kether. So when terrible things like this happen, I am sympathetic. I do view it as a tragedy, but I'm also going to adhere to my beliefs and not pretend that God is going to look out for the victims, when even the scripture admits that God is responsible for the bad and evil things too. I tend to agree more with Judaism in that God is to be loved and feared. This outbreak of tornadoes and the devastation caused is just a small example why. And I say small because entire worlds and suns can be destroyed. If the Creator deems it so, it will be so. It's something that Christianity has lost over time with their view of duality and polarity, that only the bad things are because of the bad guy devil. You know, the Bible is a big book, and most of them don't read all of it. They tend to cherry pick verses which suits them in the moment, and now you have one to cherry pick as well. Isaiah 45:7. I want to thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and share it if you did, or even consider sending a super thanks or joining the Inner Circle membership on the channel to early access like videos like this and exclusive content. Follow me on social media, links are in the description, and I will see you soon. Take care.